All right, so tonight we have a couple of things. Want to run through bylaw updates. And before we introduce our speakers, just quickly, don't want to do anything at length. We posted them, so you have the opportunity to see the proposed changes and make any comments. I've already got a couple of ideas back on the language around terms, but just a summary if you didn't get to see it. So some of the language updates are to provide some flexibility around, instead of saying we take off this month and this month, we just need to meet 10 times in a calendar year, things like that. Cleaning up some language because the state foster parent association is no longer a thing, so striking some of those things. Also updates around membership. So previously it said that you only had to be a member to attend events and vote. So updates to say attending meetings is part of membership. For $20, we provide a lot of value, you guys. We're eating pizza, we're doing sitters, and we want to encourage people to commit to membership because we think it's worth it for $20. So obviously, new foster parents might want to come and check it out before they sign up for membership, and that is cool. So it's not meant to deter any of that stuff, or to prevent people from coming into the Facebook group if they're a licensed foster parent. But part of the benefits of membership will also now include being able to come and attend meetings. Because you guys, Leslie sends everything over, like she's tracking your training, she's sending it over to the people that do the licensing. Like, that's an amazing benefit, right? So, okay, I'm glad you guys agree that that's worth it. And then the updated officer term. So it's previously been 1 year. We're proposing a change to a 2-year term with kind of that alternation where 2 come off and 2 stay on, so that we can have a little bit more continuity and ease in transitions. It also helps when we have to change people who are on the bank account. It lessens that. And then I think it just provides some good opportunity for a nice term length where you can really get in. Because we are just hitting our stride. 10 months in, we've got this down. So language updates around that. And we're proposing that if we vote to update all of the bylaws, that when we vote for officers this year, we'd be committing 2 people to a 1-year term and 2 to a 2-year term starting out to get us on the cycle. So I just want to open it up for any comments, feedback that you might have right now, concerns. I'll run the mic if there are anything.
So the question was, are we an official nonprofit? Because I had a donor reach out wanting to donate money to this association.
So we are registered with the Secretary of State as a registered nonprofit, but we are not a 501(c)(3) because you need to bring in more than $10,000 in order to be that and file taxes every year. And I actually think it's kind of lucky that we don't get donations of over 10,000, so we haven't had to.
But Amber would like your money.
Just my understanding that I don't believe you have to have more than 10,000 in receipts to become a 501(c)(3). And it's far easier than it used to be. We had a curling club in Devil's Lake that went through a short process, and it was pretty quick, easy, and painless. Not saying that it's necessary for us to do that, but just to clarify.
Okay, we can look into that. I think it wouldn't be a bad thing.
No, it's the Power of 100 women's fundraising group, and they can only donate to 501(c)(3)s. So that's why they wanted to know if this group was one.
$9,999. Okay, anyone an expert and want to help with that? Okay, Leslie's got that, right? And Leslie, I'm not monitoring online right now, so help me out if I'm missing something there. Any other, it's okay if you don't have anything to say right now, just want the opportunity, so. Right, so we'll start an alternating 2-year term, so the officers that are elected at this next go round, 2 will have a 1-year and 2 will have a 2-year term. Okay,
Just how are you handling nominations for your next officers?
that's a great question. That's the next agenda point. This is a good transition. So officer elections, if you're interested and you would like to let us know, we would like to collect those things before the next meeting so we could let everyone know these are the people that are interested in these certain roles, because at the next meeting, if our bylaws, we want to do all of our business, our bylaw updates and our officer elections so that they can start in January and do a whole calendar year. And don't worry, new officers, we have January lined up. So you don't have to plan January. We'll help you with the transition. So, well, all of them are open. Okay. Oh, what did we decide? I can't remember. That's a great question, Joe. The treasurer, it's actually, no, sorry. I have to look, you guys, because it's still foggy. The treasurer and the vice president go together. And we're going to do, I think we said 1-year terms for that, and then president and secretary 2-year term. We are splitting it up that way because the treasurer and the president are the ones on the bank account, which is a change we made this year, is that not all 4 officers are on the bank account, so it also eases the burden in transition. And just a couple of things to note, maybe if you're thinking about it, if you're apprehensive. So we've set up a association Gmail account. All of the files are going into that account. We're operating everything out of that account. All of the information we get from West Central on new foster parents comes into there. So when there's a transition, we'll do a password change, get those people in, make the changes on Facebook to administer that group. And so you're just able to come in and have all the resources at that point. So we really wanted to make it easier to have the things at your fingertips really quickly when transitions happen. So you don't have to say in front of everyone if you're interested, but if you are, you should reach out, let us know in the weeks to come. We'll put something out there for the Facebook group as well. Crystal, Amber, Leslie, am I missing anything? All right, we have, so out of the officers, we had a meeting and Amber is interested in being done. And Crystal is interested in being done. And Leslie and I are willing to stay on and continue to play a role in some way. But just so you guys are all aware, that's where the current officers stand at this point. Okay. I should have ran the mic to you, and I'm sorry to the people online right now, and I'm not going to repeat it. It's just the transition will make it easy. That's the summary. If you want to print out, these aren't colored, but here's a printout if you'd like to take one. And then Crystal really wants somebody to be the treasurer because she provided some of the responsibilities of the treasurer too, if you're interested in that role. But it does outline that in the bylaws. So, okay, we have some great guest speakers tonight. So we have Rebecca Grable and Harmony Bercier. Did I say that right, Harmony? Close enough. Oh, man. So they are joining us tonight to talk a little bit about ICWA and help us just gain a better understanding of this aspect that we're all a little bit familiar with, but also quite foggy. So come on up, ladies.
Oh, I'm gonna fall off by the end of the night. All right. My name is Rebecca Grapel. I am the ICWA director for Standing Rock. So we'll just do a quick introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Harmony Bercier. I am one of Bismarck's, or Burleigh County's, foster care liaison, culture care liaisons, serving to support foster parents in this area who have Native kids in their home. But I manage a grant that is working hard to improve the implementation of ICWA in this state. And I also do all the state's training for infant-child welfare for the state part. So I train all child welfare workers. We do guardian ad litems and some lawyers, so all over the place. So. But I've never had to speak to a whole group of foster parents, so this is a first for me. Yeah. Probably. Well, my mom is Sandra Bercier. She used to have a big hand in child welfare as well. She used to run here. How many of you are familiar with Native American Training Institute? My mother used to run that too. So, yeah, it's kind of a big deal. No. But real quick before I'll hand it back over to Rebecca in a minute, but I just wanted to kind of start with a prayer. I won't light this smudge like I normally would, but just kind of to share, whenever we do something like this, starting with a prayer and starting in a good way is really important. Know that we appreciate everything that you guys do for the kids you have that are ours in your homes. And hopefully we're able to be helpful today and answer some questions and clarify some things for you. So, but I'll talk about these after that. Okay, and I'm a little bit young to pray, so this is a kind of a new role for me too, because in our culture, you always let those who are older than you pray. I'm kind of getting old, but I'm usually not the oldest in the room, but today I am. So, oh geez, does that help? And I'll just, you can pray in whatever way works for you, but I'll just share with you what we do. And understand that some of the things that I share with you today, I'm one Native in one family in one tribe. So everybody has different variations of the things that they do and how they do them. So, Luju Gitchimani too, I ask you to be here with us today in this room to lighten our hearts and open our minds and our ears to new messages and new learning. I pray for all the people and children that are in the foster care system. May their families find ways to become healthy again and happy, and may we support them in doing that. So I'm completely socially awkward. This is really awkward for me. I don't know what to do with my hands. No, I'm fine, but I'm gonna like end up like this at some point because I don't know what to do with them. First, I thank you all for being foster parents, and I know that it is a hard, it's not a job, but it's a hard giving of the heart. Always taking care of somebody else's kids, and ultimately the goal is to give them back. And so I know that that's always hard. And so thank you. I told you I'm socially awkward and I don't know what to do. Okay, sorry. So thank you very much. I wanted to say that first and foremost. I have been the ICWA director at Standing Rock since, well, I started at Standing Rock working in the ICWA department in 2016. Shortly after that, I somehow was thrown to the Sharks and became the ICWA director that fall. And so I jumped in and just learned. There weren't really any trainings at that time or any classes that I could take. It was just reading the law, and fortunately, having the blessing of state's attorneys that kind of took me under their wing and showed me the ropes, because I had absolutely no idea court or any of that. So it's all been a growing and learning experience working there. I have a great passion for it. I don't even know. I have a significant amount of cases. I have about 162 cases under my caseload nationwide. Within that, and that's just families. That's not including children. I don't know. So it's always I'm regularly busy and just a busybody and trying to find ways to help. I think when I talk with foster parents, I refer to them as resource parents more so, because it is being a resource to that family and being a resource to the children that they have within their homes. I think that what I've been seeing a lot, unfortunately, is active addiction within the communities, and that being a significant part of why a lot of children are coming into care is because their parents are using. And I think that it's important to keep in mind that the reason why children are in stranger resource homes and not relatives is because the whole family unit is broken. And so I think being a resource parent, not just for the children that are in the home, but also for the family, for the mother, for the father, and showing them being a good parental role model for them if you have the energy and the capability of being able to do that. Because if the children aren't with their relatives, then that means that there's been a breakdown in the family unit. I can go on preaching. I hope that there's questions. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, all over. So ICWA is a nationwide law. It is federal law that was passed in the 70s as a response of 2 Native American children being removed at disproportionate rates from their families off of reservations and from their families on reservations at that time. And ICWA established that state entities weren't to conduct child welfare services on reservations. That's left up to the reservation itself. And then for Indigenous families off of the reservation, ICWA has specific guidelines providing active effort, searching actively for familial placements, whether that's grandmother, aunt, uncle, any type of kinship placement, and then providing active efforts towards reunification, as well as having a recognized community person provide qualified expert witness at time of removal, and if it arrives at the point of termination of parental rights, providing that qualified expert witness testimony to state that the actions of the parents, the inaction of the parents, and the active efforts by the state has been unsuccessful in either keeping the child in the home or reunifying, and that the actions are not culturally centered around our familial practices. So they do have to provide that QEW testimony, and that arose out of ICWA, and in a response because there was a lack of understanding of cultural family rearing practices that were different within Indigenous communities that were not practiced in European communities or within Caucasian families. And so at that time in the 50s and 40s, 50s, 60s, that children were being removed for things that we typically did just as cultural practices, but because it was different or because it was strange and it seemed like, well, maybe that's putting the child in harm's way. So having a community member provide that testimony and saying, yes, this is not a part of our cultural practices, it ensures the court, it ensures the family, and it ensures the tribe that the children are being removed for just reasons. So. Yep, that's correct. So that's 162 families that are located off of the reservation that are involved in the Department of Social Services, whether they're in foster care, kinship, or trial reunification. They're involved in some sort of court removal involvement. And yeah, it's nationwide. So it's early mornings and late nights because I'm in like that perfect time zone where they're like, I have Washington that's like, we're going to schedule court at 4. And I'm like, that's 6 for me. But I don't have Standing Rock CPS's numbers because they also are a removing agency and place children in foster care. I wouldn't be able to tell you. Last I had heard, which was more than a year ago, it was roughly 300 or so children, but I'm not certain. And I know that a lot of foster families in Bismarck and Mandan receive a significant amount of Standing Rock CPS children because we don't have foster homes down there right now. And a lot of that has to do with intergenerational dwellings. We have grandma who could be placement, but she has her son who's not well, or is unable to pass a background, and we can't place children in that environment, and so we place off. So the children just have to be eligible for enrollment. And so each tribe identifies differently how they recognize enrollment. For Standing Rock, we require that one of the parents be enrolled as half or more, which would make the child a fourth or a quarter. That's the cutoff, is a quarter. If a parent is not enrolled, or in situations where obviously the parent is the child's parent, the parent is deceased, whatever that situation, we will use the grandparents' blood quantum, but the grandparents would have to show that they have enough blood quantum for the child to be at least a quarter. Oh yeah, for everyone online. Sorry. Okay, let me rewind. No, I'm kidding.
Well, so, so that's Standing Rock's rules. So there's 576 tribes in this nation, and each tribe has the right to determine for itself what its enrollment standards are. Some tribes will include the quantum of another tribe's blood to reach their limit. So there's so many different rules around it. So the best thing is to just let the tribes figure out whether they're enrolled. But for ICWA, they have to be a biological child of an enrolled member and have to be at least eligible for enrollment. Mhm. Mhm. Hold on. Oh, I can talk loud. I don't need this. Okay, okay. Okay. Okay, yeah, so he was asking, like, like a lot of parents are saying, what's the point? We don't get anything. What's the benefit with it? I'm enrolled, and I enrolled my daughter. And then my son that was just in here, I actually haven't enrolled him. I'm kind of, like you said, like on the fence, because what is there? You know what I mean? Like with Turtle Mountain, like we get nothing. I tried signing up for school 10 years ago. Since I lived off the reservation, they wouldn't help me like financially to go to school or anything. But if I lived on the reservation, they would help me. So I understand that. So that's interesting that you brought that up, because I'm like, oh, that's me right now, with my own kid. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to throw. So like, what are the extra benefits aside from the tribe getting money for stuff where we don't even live, or whatever the case may be? You know what I mean? Some of the parents I know don't enroll their kids because they don't want to tell who the dad is. And I mean, you could get to a real basic space like that, But the advantages of being enrolled is, one is you keep your tribe alive, and that's one of the things that ICWA does. Is when I train about ICWA, I say, where are you guys from? Does somebody want to share kind of where your familiar roots are? Germany and Ireland. See, okay. So do you feel like you practice like your grandparents did? Do you live the lives that they did and use the culture and the foods and the traditions? Right? But if you wanted to learn about all of that, where would you go? Right? So as a Native American, if we don't keep our tribes alive here, I have nowhere to go. Nowhere to go to learn about who I am. That's just the bottom line. So keeping our tribes alive is important. But, I guess like she said, I'm an enrolled member of Turtle Mountain. The tribe will pay for us to go to school now off of the reservation, not pay for, you get $1,000 a semester. So this notion that Indians get free colleges, I have $60,000 in student loan debt. And I'm an ABD for PhD in clinical psych. So the notion that we get free school is not there. But you do open up yourself for more scholarships. But if you look at it statistically, there's more scholarships for white people than there is for any other race. So that's just a misnomer. But ICWA in and of itself is a reason and a benefit to enrolling your child, but they don't have to be enrolled to do that. You just have to be eligible for enrollment. So definitely, if you come across parents like that, find people like us, and we can talk to them and share with them what those benefits are. And you never know, we could hit oil in 20 years at Turtle Mountain. Although, no, we can't, because our tribe did an anti-fracking law, so we don't. The government decided we would not be a part of that. Mhm. Well, one of the things that's nice about North Dakota is so not not a lot of states have, the kind of culture that we have here. And it's kind of, if you know where the reservations are, we're kind of like in all four corners of the state somewhat. And in the bigger cities, so like here in Bismarck, United Tribes offers weekly sweat ceremony, that if you had an older child in your home who wanted to do that, or a mother who was interested and wanted to go to ceremony, there's a lot of options out at United Tribes. Sacred Pipe, Rain Braves program, North Dakota. Well, everybody can smudge, doesn't matter if you're using or not, but, and it depends. So we have a treatment center back in Turtle Mountain, which is only really for Turtle Mountain people because it's on the reservation, but, you can't go into a sweat drunk for sure, just be like going to church. But if if you're trying to be clean and trying to be sober, you could, but there's special ceremonies and people who will do that, for them too, so. So when I train child welfare workers in the state, I tell them if you get to a place where you're going to get a TPR, then the county would, because they're the custodian, would have a responsibility to enroll them prior to termination so that they have that paper trail. It's a lot harder to accomplish afterwards. Yeah, because there could be some, there could be there's benefits, you have that, so at UND, if you're Native American, you can apply for a cultural waiver, so half of the tuition's waived but that money comes out of the 3%, they get a 3% of, it's funding that they generate from Native American enrollment, so it's kind of just giving it back to them, but, so those are some of the things, school and it depends on where you are, if you're how lucky you are in Richard Tricks monetarily. Yeah. Yeah, so college, especially here in North Dakota has the University of North Dakota, it's my college, and they have a lot of Native American programs for psychologists, which is a program that I went through, for doctors and nurses and engineers, and for a lot of those programs to get access the financial benefits of those, you have to be enrolled. You have to show your certificate of Indian blood. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, so, yeah. Keeping the culture alive. Yeah, my mom and Rick used to do that. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, so I think the Native American Training Institute used to help sponsor that. I think YouthWorks was involved in that project as well. So it's possible, if that's something. Yeah, and that brought the kids into the space, and because a lot of our kids and a lot of the moms you work with, probably don't smudge because they don't feel like they can or should, have these medicines in their homes with them. And so maybe aren't sharing this part of our culture or the traditional or the spiritual parts of our culture with their kids, but there's a reason for that, a long history that hides behind why our families aren't connected to their tribes and cultures and traditions. So any opportunity you get to share that with them, the kids you have in your home and the mothers and the families that you serve. So I'm here. I can come to your home and show you how to smudge. I always tell people, who knows Teresa Caputo? Does anybody know the Long Island medium? Who knows Teresa Caputo? If she can smudge, anybody can smudge. I tell you, that woman's got, her hair is like 6 feet tall, blonde as could be. She's about this big. I saw her in person. so yeah.
So the question was that there's situations where a child could be eligible if dad had completed paternity. However, at the point of permanency of termination of parental rights, the county is stating that tribe still needs to sign off on the termination of parental rights, even though the father has not completed paternity. In that situation, I think that's more of a level of mutual respect between the agencies at that point. I have a case that's like that right now. A father we had hoped would complete paternity and had not. And we're at the point of permanency now. And unfortunately, the child is going to lose their right to be enrolled because dad is refusing to do paternity. But a mutual respect through the agency and my office was with the understanding that this child could very well be enrolled here soon. So we're going to treat this as an ICWA case so that we're not going backwards and trying to make sure that we're completing active efforts and looking for family, and then come termination of parental rights. It's just a mutual respect. For Standing Rock, I can't say on the record that I support termination of parental rights, but I won't fight against it if a parent is not completing their case plan, if there's not safe family, and that is what is going to be in the best interest of the child. Every tribe has their own standard on it, and it's their choice as to what to say or what to do in those instances. And I do know of some tribes that refuse termination of parental rights at all costs and prefer guardianship or custodianship, even if that's with a foster family, versus terminating parental rights. So it's that was a long-winded answer.
So just real quick. So according to the law, so legally, ICWA applies if there's reason to know. So if there's reason to know that the child is an Indian child, you would treat that as an ICWA case until it's determined on the record that the child is not an Indian child. So that's a good way to think about it.
It depends on the tribe. For Standing Rock, we need an original birth certificate. And so you would need an original birth certificate with his name on it. which is gone now. What I would recommend, at least in that situation where the county no longer has custody, would be to reach out to the tribe's enrollment office and seek guidance through them, because they might be able to do something. But that's usually how I know it is that, and that's why I push to make sure that the child is enrolled before we go forward with termination of parental rights, or at least have the application submitted before termination of parental rights. I'm going to go to you and then. Yeah. So the question was whether there's different ICWA workers for each tribe, and whether ICWA applies across the board, or whether it differs depending upon the tribe. The law of ICWA, so the Indian Child Welfare Act, that is across the board nationwide. There are specific standards to that. Now, how tribes implement that are different amongst the tribes, depending on their children's codes, their child rearing practices, and how they view termination or foster care. And each tribe has that right to identify through their ICWA worker how they want to proceed in those cases. And oftentimes we're led, I'm not just behind the desk flying off the handle doing all of this on my own. I have tribal council and a committee that I report to and I seek guidance to. For the most part, there are I know my job and I do that, but when I run into situations where I am uncertain how to handle something, I go to my committee, which is a 6-member group from our tribal council, and seek guidance. And I think that that's probably pretty similar. But yeah, each tribe has their own ICWA worker, especially in North Dakota. If the child is underneath the legal custody of the county, it would be the county. Yeah, he just didn't show up. He said he would do it, but he would never show up. The same as any other time. I'm sorry, the question was if one of the parents is non-native, what rights do they have under ICWA law? The same as the native parent. It is, so ICWA specifies to the child, and the child's parents, whether it's a non-native mom and a native dad or vice versa, ICWA applies to them. I know for Standing Rock, we don't delineate one way or the other as to if we're looking for family placement and it's mom or dad's family that's non-native and they're available, then their relative, place them with relative. I don't delineate one way or the other. If it's dad that works the case plan and he's non-native and he works the case plan and he's a suitable placement, go to dad. I haven't heard of any other tribes doing something different outside of that, and ICWA doesn't specify that any type of preference needs to be given to the native or non-native parent in those matters.
But I joke, if my granddaughter comes into the child welfare system, her other grandma is not native and she better come to me. But that is not, but that is not, the family is family and first line is first line, doesn't matter. You know, if mom has the baby and baby's enrollable by dad and dad's not involved, ICWA would still apply and she would get those extra protections. Sure.
I'm sick of typing them. You guys are doing great. Okay, as far as learning about the culture and the reservation being the place where that learning can happen, specifically, how is that knowledge shared? Is it person to person? Can they go to museums or libraries or community events? Can you explain more about that?
So yeah, it can happen in all of those ways. You know, a lot of times, one of the things that's happening in Indian country right now is they're revitalizing culture, they're revitalizing language. They have a lot of immersion camps and culture camps on reservations for children and families and adults. There's lots of language courses out there. There's lots of stuff online as far as you know, learning part of the language. But a lot of it also happens by person to person, you know, and so, you know, part of the Culture Care Liaison program that I'm doing is just to be able to share with families what I can here. And then I have connections back home and I have connections to people on all 4 reservations. So, you know, it could be I, you know, share with you, okay, well, MHA is doing a horse camp, you know, this month, and, you know, so bringing them to do that. But a lot of my learning came from my parents and my grandparents and aunts and uncles, and that's just person to person, situation by situation. So all of those things.
If the tribe is transferring it, then it wouldn't be Burleigh County. That would be a tribal decision. You could continue to try to remain in contact with the tribal ICWA office and let them know if that doesn't work out, that you are willing, that you are willing, and that you are, of course, are in favor of, you know, placement reunification with family. That's what's the goal here. But if that doesn't work out, that you would like to be a resource, as it makes no sense to move on to a different stranger placement if this doesn't work out, if she could just come back. Yeah, or you could shoot over an email and introduce who you are. And it can be difficult, and we can be a little protective sometimes, especially over tribal decisions that are being made, for somebody to come in and then make it seem like we aren't making the best decision or anything like that. Definitely defenses can come up. And so maybe even just to avoid any conflict of it, you can email and this is who I am, this is our number, this is our address. And if that doesn't work out and any type of resource home is being sought, that we are more than willing to open our homes back open to her. And there's no harm in that. I wouldn't find that offensive, but I only speak for myself, one ICWA director for one tribe. So that didn't work. Good luck.
Feel like I'm loud enough. Is that only available to foster homes who have Native placements, or also to adoptive homes where they've adopted a Native American child?
Yeah, I would be willing to serve, whoever needs help, whether it's an adoptive home or a foster home. But I we don't really market it like that. We're hoping to not get to adoption. Mhm. Yeah, so if you know any Indians who want to be foster culture care liaisons, there's 2 in Burleigh County we're trying to, and part of why I do it is because I'd love to be a foster parent and be a preferred placement. So, but I can't, I just can't right now. My job is too demanding.
I have 3 more questions. We had some people submitting them in advance too. So one question: if a child does not want to be enrolled right now but they are eligible, they can enroll anytime after they turn 18. I mean, they can enroll at any age, correct?
And each tribe is different. And so I would recommend getting in contact with the enrollment office for that child specific tribe, at least for Standing Rock, as long as there is an unamended original birth certificate that shows the enrolled parent. If termination of parental rights has occurred and adoption has occurred and the child is over the age of 18, I know for Standing Rock, they wouldn't be eligible for enrollment. And so other tribes may operate under that same way, or other tribes may have different enrollment practices.
Just to add a little more to that, so one of the things that we're trying to do with the grant work that we're doing is making sure we have these people out there. I don't know if any of you have come in contact with an ICWA family preservationist, but like we talked about, Turtle Mountain, that's the tribe that I'm from. I'm an enrolled member of Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians. We have 35,000 enrolled members, and Marilyn Putcher manages about 400 cases, not 400 kids. So capacity is so limited. So we developed a program to kind of further the reach of the tribe and the support. And one of the jobs that we are currently working on developing, adding to their already pretty intense job description, is developing a culture care program, or a culture care program for kids who are adopted, and making sure original birth certificates, if they're not enrolled, some of those things are there, and trying to support that happening before things happen, and in a way that make it really hard.
I gotta get these in first. Okay, hold on. So can you explain a little bit about the process when a child comes into foster care? What should the process look like? And is there a possible timeline to maybe understand around some of the process? They're kind of asking for a child who remains in care for longer than 6 months. Is there just anything to understand around that? Does this question make any sense? No?
So federal guidelines, especially with ICWA cases, the county can provide up to 24 months of active efforts towards reunification. If an infant comes in newborn, and after 6 months, typically on a non-ICWA case, that you'll find the county will file for permanency at that 6-month mark if the parents are not participating in a case plan. However, with ICWA cases, they will extend that out to at least a year, sometimes longer, just depending upon the relationship between the department and the tribe, and whether there is familial connection with the child and the family or the parents. So with ICWA, with an ICWA newborn, for sure that child will be at least a year before the county will start looking at permanency or looking at filing for permanency. I'm not sure if that answers that question.
Yes. Dual enrollment is very rare. That depends on the tribes. And I don't even personally know of a tribe that allows dual enrollment. But you can disenroll in a tribe. As an adult, I helped my niece do it. She was an enrolled member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa, and then, but her dad was from Alaska. So after she turned 18, she disenrolled in our tribe and enrolled in Federation up in Alaska. So it's possible, but once you disenroll, usually you don't get to re-enroll again. So if you changed your mind, so they do that, and Spirit Lake hits oil, you can't go back, usually is the rule. So. Oh yeah. And Alaska is one of the tribes that does pay for your entire school. So there are some benefits for sure.
For Standing Rock, it would be, there's an actual form through the enrollment office it's a relinquishment form, and it essentially is putting on there, I'm wanting to relinquish, this is my enrollment number. And he could, I'm not sure if that's the same at Spirit Lake or not. You could put a recognition letter from Standing Rock. This is my mom's CDIB, which means Certificate Degree of Indian Blood. This is my mom's CDIB, and I'm eligible at Standing Rock. So I want to enroll here, relinquish here, and enroll at Standing Rock, and then just fill out the enrollment application at Standing Rock. And as long as they see that you are relinquished from, or as long as he is relinquished from Spirit Lake, then they would move forward with the enrollment at Standing Rock. Yeah, double check before relinquishing. I'm not sure if Spirit Lake allows. I know at Standing Rock, I believe it's, you want to say 10 years before you can re-enroll once you relinquish. So.
Okay, so this question is really trying to understand the social workers working the case with the timeline and where ICWA comes in. And I think they're feeling some frustration, like maybe timelines get extended. Maybe you can just speak to that a little bit.
Ask me again. Oh.
So unless, so when it comes to the legal definition of something, you want to talk about ICWA law can trump ASFA if certain things are happening. So the time, the 24 months can be moved back, we'll say. Say mom comes in late in the game and she starts making changes at 18 months, but she needs a year to make her changes, they can move that timeline for it, I don't know if I think they can do it for anybody. I mean, ASFA has 3 exceptions to the rules, so I don't know if Sarah, if you want to speak to that a little bit.
So yeah, as Harmony stated that with ICWA does trump ASFA, And if they are seeing that there are efforts on the family's part, significant efforts, and that reunification could possibly look likely, then they would allow more time. There could be a number of different issues that may be preventing permanency, i.e. enrollment. They could be trying to work on getting the child enrolled, which could push out permanency timelines. No, I understand, and I know that it's emotional for you, and thank you for outing yourself and being vulnerable in that moment. No, you're fine. So there could be, as I stated, a number of reasons why permanency timelines get pushed out. And as you were asking, I was thinking of even more. If the state, like if I were looking at a case and as ICWA worker and I did not feel that the state had provided active efforts towards reunification, or the state did not provide active efforts towards locating relative placement, I can be a bee on wheels and my foot would be on their neck. Like, this is the law and this is what we're doing. And so that very well could be it. There's a significant amount of reasons of why permanency can be pushed out. And it may not even be ICWA per se, but the state looking at it, or the state's attorney looking at it and say, we did not meet expectations here. And a judge is going to ask that. And a qualified expert witness has to testify that the state has provided active efforts, which is beyond just the reasonable efforts in non-ICWA cases of just sending out a letter or making a phone call. Oh, they didn't get back to us. They should be banging down doors. We have these kids. Do you want these kids? And if the ICWA worker or the QEW or the state's attorney looks at it and says this isn't going to pass the sniff test in front of a judge, then we're not doing it. And so as foster parents, and probably as an ICWA worker, I shouldn't be saying that, but as foster parents, if we're heading down a route of, you know that this is heading to permanency, you're feeling that, check with your case manager. Where are we at with family? What have you done? Where are we at with meeting active efforts? This is an ICWA case. And I don't promote foster care being a foster to adopt pipeline, and I'm definitely not saying that that's what you guys did, but I think that that's important when foster families are like, okay, yep, we're gonna adopt, to start thinking like, did you guys provide active efforts? Have they been done? And you guys have been with the kids, so I think that you would know whether these active efforts are being, how many visits has there been? Parents are completely gone. Are they talking about this at family team meetings? How many families or how many members they've reached out to? And that's okay for you guys to ask the caseworker at family team meetings, or even the ICWA person. Like, we can be really intimidating, but we don't have to be.
Just to add a little bit more to that is, the tribe, you kind of said they haven't really been involved. They've been okay with everything, and they're coming in at the 11th hour and taking this kid right from underneath me. And the law does allow that to happen. And so, like Rebecca said, make sure when you're at child and family team meetings, you guys are talking about active efforts and whether or not they're being done. You're asking, has there been a search? Has there been any preferred placements, family found for these kiddos? Because the longer they're with you, the harder it gets, right? But there is a law to follow. And, technically, if there's and you know, as much as you can support that work happening, that would be awesome. But you know, if there's a violation of ICWA found someplace, you know, that could be really hard, where an adoption could go through and be reversed if, you know, if the law is not followed. So whatever you can do to support. Well, I haven't. Yeah, if there's a violation of ICWA law, so yeah.
I'll at least clear that up. So there's an appeal timeline after adoption takes place. There's an appeal timeline that comes after a termination of parental rights timeline, and it would be an appeal to reverse the TPR, and that is if they find that there was a violation to ICWA, then it could go to North Dakota Supreme Court for an appealability. And then with the adoption, say you adopted my niece and I find out she was adopted and I was never contacted, and there's no proof that they ever contacted me, that could be an appealability aspect, which then we look at baby girl Veronica. In that case, it was a little bit different because it was in a voluntary termination of parental rights, where mom wanted to voluntarily terminate and father was Indigenous in Oklahoma. So it is a little bit of a different case in that situation, but the appealability in that is that father was never given, and nor was his family ever given, the ICWA due process, even though they were an Indigenous family. And so that's where baby Veronica, she was moved back and forth all over. And that's what we really want to prevent those things from happening, because it is the best interest of the child. It's not just tribal communities. It's not just being Native, but it is the best interest of the child. And so if we are going to go through with an adoption, whether with a Native family or a non-Native family, we want to make sure that that's going to be long-term and successful.
So yeah, just making sure active efforts are happening, making sure diligent searches are happening, talking about those things at child and family team meetings, reaching out, trying to engage in culture for those kiddos as much as you can. Those are all really important things, because if it's a good solid case, it's not appealable, you know, so then you don't have any issues. It's just if active efforts weren't done, nobody tried to find family, those are violations that are pretty serious. So. Mhm. Mhm.
Let me give you the permission if somebody else is telling you no, because I'm just first standing up. I know you guys need to talk to Rebecca, and she said I could do it.
Have the mic. So Sarah Stolten, and the Chief Operating Officer, Department of Human Services, but I'm a foster parent, and that's why I'm here. And I will just speak frankly from experience that I think sometimes case managers in specific zones put the fear of God into foster parents in terms of, well, this is all in the tribe's hands, and almost makes the tribe the bad guy. And I don't love that at all, but I'm just being honest that I think that that does happen. And I think it's a way, unfortunately, that for them to feel like I can take the blame off my shoulders and I can put it on someone else. And it's not a good practice, but I've seen it and we recognize that and it has to change. But I do think that, I think that is why that some people say, like, I'm afraid to talk to the tribe or the ICWA coordinator because the caseworker has put that fear of God into them. Like, if you say the wrong thing, they can take your child away. And that is sometimes what's said, unfortunately. And I'm just being honest from my own experience and from what I've heard. I take almost 100% of the foster parent constituent complaints at the department, and I can tell you that we hear that a lot.
I do as well.
Well, and depending on where she is enrolled, I know from my office, I pull a family tree, and I have no problem distributing that family tree. There's not really, other than names and date of birth, anything confidential on there. So I provide a family tree to the case manager at the inception of the case. And if we're at this level of, extended permanency, I would be more than happy to turn that family tree over to the prospective adoptive family. Like, I want that child to have that information. I want them to have their biological parents' CDIB, even if that means that they don't have it until they get to an age where they're able to understand that. But for me, I think that is extremely important, to be able to relate back to something and say, this is where I'm from, and this is where I can go for more answers. That's more cultural, and you can speak to that. But check with the ICWA worker, check with the enrollment office, to see if you can receive a family tree or a family card, depending on which tribe. You'll say family tree, and they're like, what? So it might be family card, but checking with that.
So just to elaborate there, if you don't know, if you're working with kids and their parents aren't involved, but you know what tribe they're from, reach out to anybody at the tribe. You can call the college there and say what kind of, and every tribe. So I have a website. Has anybody been to the North Dakota ICWA website? Yeah, so we have a website and we have a page called North Dakota Tribes, tribal information, and under each tribe there's an activity calendar, a program calendar, contact information. So that's where you could go to see, call the college and say, what kind of summer camps are you guys offering this summer, if you want to encourage that connection and keep that connection to the tribe without family. You don't need them to, you go to the birds all by yourself. So it's so to help that thought, so if you think about Marilyn Petra, she's Turtle Mountain, she has 400 kids. There's no way that woman can manage, and we were developing a program to increase the capacity of the tribes, and we launched that here. Burleigh County has one, but not all tribes do it, but Turtle Mountain does. So, just think of the capacity they serve, the entire nation. And 400 cases could mean 700 kids, in each kid. So they're being invited to, how many inquiries would you get a year?
It's not just like family team meetings. It's appearing at court, it's appearing at family team meetings, it's running inquiries, responding to caseworkers nationwide, and it's reason to know. And so if they assume or are told, the question is always asked, do you have Native American heritage? And if the person answers yes, they have to send an inquiry. So we're getting all of these inquiries and having to submit and then respond, keeping up with the files, providing testimony. It's a lot for one person. In all of our offices, I know that Marilyn, and she's Turtle Mountain, she's completely swamped. I'm swamped. I barely keep up some days, and she's triple my numbers. And so I know that that's nationwide, especially in larger tribes that have more enrolled members. You try reaching out to the enrollment office if you're not getting a response from the ICWA worker, and just calling to see if you can get a family history. Most likely you'll need to know the parents' names and date of birth, the bio parents' names and date of birth, so that you can pull that information. But if you're not getting a response from the ICWA worker, then try that, especially for those things. As an ICWA worker, I look at cases, I look at where children are at, I have a lot of repeat parents and their involvement in prior cases. And sometimes I just have to say, this one right now is not a priority. The child is safe. I know that there's not any relative placements. We're unfortunately going to go through the motions on this because we went through the motions on their 7 siblings. And so I'm not as involved. Let me know if there's something that I can help with. And the cases where I can be actively involved, and I believe that there is a ability for reunification, then I'm actively involved in those. But I do have a handful, not a lot, but I do have a handful of cases that I just know that it's not there because it's been a reoccurring theme, and there's not much that I can do. But not saying that that's the best practice. Harmony, you can quit looking at me like that.
No, you never give up on kids. Even if 7 are gone, we just saved, we had a family. Yeah, it's going to be this one. And this is what we teach, what I teach to social workers. It doesn't matter that she lost 6. This is a new kid who has a right to be with her mom, so their efforts have to be there too. So, and we did save one. She had lost 6 kids and she now has her 7th child, and they are doing very well.
So I've been doing this for a number of years, and I think, like we kind of said, the perspective is like you just said, really, you can have them in your home for 6 months. You won't hear from a social worker, ICWA worker, or whatever. And I think that's where we get frustrated to say, why aren't they working from day one to find a placement? Well, they're, like you said, they're probably so busy. You got more important cases, so we're going to let them in their home for 18 months, and then as soon as it comes to termination, we're going to step in and then try to find the family. So I know it's frustrating on our side on that aspect of it. My situation that I had with the tribe, like I said, the girls are six years apart, And even with the youngest one, when they knew I had the biological half sister, they still said they were trying to find family. Distant uncle was more important to be placed with them instead of the half sister, which I thought was just so wrong. In the end, it did come out that they didn't have things going on in their life, then they never took her. So then we could keep them together as siblings, which to me, I think that'd be the first aspect of keeping siblings together rather than a three-time uncle and aunt or this thing. We did keep them together. I do keep in touch with the ICWA worker yet. I send her pictures. We are enrolled with the tribe with both of them, and we do get emails. There's 2 outings a year that they have. They have a Christmas gathering, and then they have a big summer gathering, and we attend both of them. And besides everything else, but I think that's a frustration part for all of us is that like you said, you can go 9 months and we'll hear from nobody. And I think as foster parents, like you said, no matter if it's an ICWA child or not, the caseworkers, as we know, are all new in Burleigh County, where I think the documentation is very important because that's what we're hearing from the state's attorney, is there's not enough documentation to terminate rights. So every month or however we're supposed to, are there being visits done? Is mom out of jail? Have they made contact? So you can write down to say, out of 10 visits that were scheduled, parents only showed up for 1, vice versa like that. So I think that has to be better in our county. And that's what's happening with a lot of cases right now. State's attorneys are looking at this and say, I'm sorry, there's not enough documentation. And we're gonna lose in the tribe, so what, or we're gonna lose, why even go to court over this? But like I said, I think we've learned. Nope.
I really am saying this as a foster parent, and I'm a foster parent who's adopted. But we do spend a lot of time, I feel like, as foster parents trying to make our case for why the child should be terminated. And I just wish sometimes we put as much effort into how do we support the family to get back together. And I get it. I've adopted 2 kids. I know that. But I think sometimes as a collective, as foster parents, maybe we come off so focused on termination and adoption. And I would just challenge us to also think as much about how do we support the family for reunification. That was awesome.
So I think the longer we do this, right, like advocating on behalf of the children in your home is hard to learn when you're new, but really, really important. Any final thoughts you guys want to share?
ICWA itself can override the law, if that's what the tribe decides. I typically try to maintain that rapport between the parent and the caseworker by honoring that request. But every tribe is different. But yeah, I do typically try to honor that request as an ICWA worker.
Legally, legally it has to be considered. The parent's request, the child's request, all of those things should be considered. And if you're going to kind of go against something, you have to show good cause, and there has to be a really good reason, that you would want to go against what mom wants to do, but it doesn't have to be. She doesn't get to choose per se, but the tribe does have a little more power when it comes to that. So really, really work to push, your workers to do these things. And the culture. So one of the things I wanted to make sure to share real quick and in closing today for myself is, so in Indian country, I'm an aunt, right? So, but I'm like a mother. So all my siblings, you know, there's, I don't know how many, I think 13 nieces and nephews now. They're all my kids, you know, and we kind of think of family just a little bit differently. And that's how I think of foster parents, is you're like aunties. And I don't want to say, you know, that, but your extended family, you know, and I would never want to keep my sister's kids. I love them to death, but I want to keep them. You know, so just, you know, and when I sat through a foster parent panel during Trouble for Certification Week, and one of the foster parents works really hard with parents. She works with them in her home. She brings them, you know, does whatever she can. It helps her to stay clear on what her role is in this situation, you know, but it is also very appreciated by the parents, because then you've got the moms are like, you need to get Missy as your foster mom because she'll help you to do this. And that's what they need. You know, they need help.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap up tonight. Thank you guys so much for sharing all your knowledge, taking the barrage of questions. So Mary Jo, she posted about all the goodies she has out in the foyer area that you can grab some stuff for the kiddos, underwear, socks, jammies, other things from a drive at her church, right? Your church. So take advantage of that for the kiddos that you have right now. And that is everything. Pick up your children.